Welcome to Watcher. I don't know if this is a good idea. There is just so much to cover, and I don't want to waste everyone's time, so I'm gonna try to go straight to the point. Just mention what I feel the need to mention. Also, this review will include spoilers. So let's begin with the plot. What actually is the plot? How can it be summarized? Well, Game of Thrones is what I would call a character-driven story. The characters are its plot. It's quite unique for a fantasy, but very common for longer series. The main theme of the show is the Iron Throne and who shall rule from it. While everyone is concerned with that, a much greater threat is approaching from the north. An army of dead, led by the Night King and his walkers. But in the end, it all comes back to the Iron Throne. It's about how Westeros is trying to find its stability, as one of the greatest dynasties have ended. Who is the rightful ruler of Westeros? That is the question this show is trying to answer. So, what are my thoughts regarding the plot? I'm usually more of a fan of stories that follow a clear red thread. Game of Thrones isn't really that, and in this instance, it works perfectly. It is when the thread gets clear that this story gets weaker. For this one, is one that shines in chaos. We have the idea, the concept in our minds throughout the series, but it is those small moments, the little distractions outside of that concept that make the story so unique and great. Game of Thrones is more like a history lesson of a certain period in Westeros. It's like watching a history documentary, sometimes. Other times, it's like watching someone's darkest fantasies. So, what are Game of Thrones' strengths as a series and story? As I already mentioned, I believe that one strength is that it is a character-driven story. As long as the characters are kept interesting and consistent, the story will continue to keep the watchers engaged. The many different types of characters give almost everyone someone to relate to. The weakness becomes that it is difficult to wrap such a story up. To find a satisfying end to all the characters is pretty much impossible. It can also be quite difficult to keep all the characters consistent all the time, especially when on a budget and with limited time. Some would say that it is a strength, others that it is a weakness, but the fact that any character can die at any moment is quite unique for a show like this. It keeps you as a viewer on the edge, constantly. It is great to keep the excitement, but it can also turn you numb, making you not care that much. Some also claim that this show is very realistic, and that is true, but it can sometimes come across as overly fetishized, if that even is a word, but you get what I mean. It certainly did for me, and someone revealed all their inner fantasies with this one, disguising them as realism. It is fine though, cause that is what sells in this world. That is what the people want. But personally, I like when there is a bit of beauty in a story, and thankfully, there was some of that as well. Alright, so how about the characters? It's easy, most are fantastic, which is another reason for why the show is so popular. But to me, there are just some that stand out. I'm gonna pick the three most important characters of the show. The first one is Cersei Lannister, arguably the best character of the show. Without her, there wouldn't be a show. From being in the shadow of her husband, King Robert, to becoming the Queen of Westeros. Her story is one of the most interesting ones to follow. I would have to say that she's one of the most important and best female characters in fiction. I can't really speak for anyone, and certainly not for women, but her character raises many topics that I believe that many women can relate to, on some level at least. I also forgot to mention this about the characters, but they are truly diverse. I feel like everyone will have someone to relate to, in some form. Moving on to Jon Snow, the boy that became a man, under the harshest of circumstances. His character is important, as he constantly has to choose between love and duty. His decisions turn out to be crucial for the story, and for the fate of Westeros. If there is one character who completes the circle, it is Jon Snow. Love is indeed the death of duty, but at the same time, we find out that duty also can be the death of love, or something like that. The last character I want to include as being important is Tyrion Lannister. The character of Tyrion shows us that no matter how much the odds stack up against you, it is still worth trying to beat those odds. But you need a bit of luck, of course. He is one of this story's great underdogs that somehow always finds his way somewhere close to the top. Tyrion is one of the most intelligent characters in the show. His struggle and bizarre luck and misfortune is one of the most interesting things to follow. I just need to speak about the weakest character, the least convincing one, for me. Subjectively, of course. But I truly feel sorry for Emilia Clarke, who played Daenerys Targaryen. I feel like the show creators were a bit too lazy with her role and character. It often felt like her directions were a bit unclear, as if even the people behind the character didn't know what to do with her, or how to tell her story. Too many things were taken for granted with her. Dragons won't always save you, cause not everyone is a fool. She was always in some form of limbo for me. The performance was not convincing, and I blame that on bad directing when it comes to that role. I never felt what other characters felt from her, whether that was fear, love, might, or any other emotion. In contrast, a character like Cersei always nailed it. How do I describe Daenerys Targaryen? Only one word comes to mind. Wrong. Anyway, let's talk about the music. Or no, let's just say that it's phenomenal. Can't get enough of it. That is my type of music. Alongside trance, I suppose it's time to pick a favorite moment, something that just stood out beyond everything else for me. It would make sense to pick the execution of Ned Stark, as it established the mood of the show, or maybe even the Red Wedding, but personally, I really loved the royal wedding, when Joffrey got poisoned. That whole episode was just brilliant in my opinion. Another favorite moment was when Cersei became the queen, as she destroyed everyone who stood in her way in the capital. And let's not forget about Tyrion's trial. The acting performance was spectacular. There are just so many epic moments in this series. It's unfair to pick one. What a dumb idea that was of me. So overall, how would I rate this series? The average rating I've given out is 8. I've given out plenty of 9s as well, and a few 7s and 10s. So logically, I'd have to say 8. But as a package, all in all, I think I'm gonna have to give the show a 9. The experience has just been so good, and I think that as I rewatch everything, I'm gonna lean more towards a 9 than an 8. But what could have been better? Well, you already know the answer. If not, you will figure it out eventually. Anyway guys, what a superb journey this has been. I don't think much will match it. This was probably the height, and I would love to revisit all of this one day. I have some people I know who haven't seen the show. My goal will be to make them react to this. If and when that happens, you'll notice it might take some time to organize everything, especially to find time. I also just want to talk about my experience with the viewers and the comments. It's been amazing. I can only be grateful and thank you all for having joined me. Was it the correct decision to read the comments throughout the journey? I think so, even though I believe that I would have seen things differently if I just watched this in isolation. It is impossible to not get influenced by other people's thoughts and takes on what's going on. Sometimes I do wish that I had watched this without checking the comments. But then I remember and realize how much I would have missed, and immediately I feel like I made the correct choice. You have all been great to me. Do I have any feedback though? I don't know, let me think. Sometimes I just feel like it's better to let the reactor experience the show, and the character for that matter, no matter how wrong their opinion is. A comment that disagrees can be very unintentionally spoilery. I experienced that with Jaime. I really disliked him at the beginning of the show, but many people started to explain to me why I was so wrong, and why he is more honorable than even Ned. That made me suspect that he'd have a great transformation as a character in the future. And he did. I love comments that are patient. I don't think it's about being right or wrong, and you should obviously never get triggered by my opinions. My opinions don't mean a thing, but doing a reaction to a series and watching it alone at home are two very different things. I hope that you understand that no matter what I say, there will always be someone who disagrees. So, in conclusion, the only thing I do differently is that I wouldn't get involved in any huge debates and arguments in the comment section. Everything I just said mostly relates to me, more so than to anyone else. That's what I just realized. But again, thank you so much, all of you, for having been part of this journey. You've made this even better than it would have been if I did it alone. So, what next? I'm gonna go back to the format I'm most used to for a bit, which is animes. The episodes are shorter, and it will give me the opportunity to continue doing this as I simultaneously pursue other projects. I still have so many shows to react to though, like we have Breaking Bad left, I wanna see Vikings, I need to finish The Walking Dead also, and every other show that you guys recommended to me. But as I said, I have to make my friends react to Game of Thrones, and I want you to be there for it as well. My aim will be to include more discussions, which will give me room to get involved in front of the camera as well. I suppose that's the plan for now. I'll keep you updated on that. I guess that's it then. From the depth of my heart, thank you everyone. Now take care, and I hope our paths cross again.